Video tripods are expensive. This one, for example, cost almost $3,000. So I have this one here from Cayer, which is much cheaper. So I wanted to see just how good a cheap video tripod can be. So we're going to take it out of the box today. We're going to see what's included in here, what features this has, how the build quality is, you know, all those basic things. And then I'm going to throw my camera on here and just take some shots with it and kind of see how well it performs and if it's really worth getting something that's this cheap or if you're going to regret your purchase. So let's get into it. Hey, I'm Scott and welcome to the channel, and if you haven't already subscribed, please do consider doing so. We do lots of unboxing, tests, tutorials, reviews, anything photo and video related, and I try to focus as much as I can on getting as much pure information to you as I can, and I don't sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to throw in tons of unnecessary B-roll either. Anyway, like I said, today what we have is a tripod from Cayer, and this is a pretty cheap tripod. I will throw a link in the video description as well as the price up on screen because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it is a very cheap video tripod, especially in, like I said, that category of video tripods, which tends to be a little bit more on the expensive side. This is a very affordable option, and I wanted to see, you know, just how well this does. This is also Manfrotto plate compatible as far as I know, so that would be a huge plus for me because a lot of the things that I use, sliders, or just, you know, different setups that I have, they all use Manfrotto plates, so it's great to not have to switch out plates between different setups. Finally, one more huge appeal of this tripod to me is the fact that I think that head does also have a removable bowl base, so you can get the benefits of a bowl type tripod here, but you can also take that off if you want to put it onto something flat, like again a slider or something like that. So without any further ado, let's just get into the box and let's see what's included in this kit. Then I'll throw this camera on there and we'll see how it looks in actual performance. So my box is already a little bit beat up. That's no fault of Cayer, I'm sure. It's more on the delivery side of things, but the tripod is in a nice protective case, so it should be fine. So the case is pretty nice. It's definitely a pretty standard case, nothing overly special about it. Again, this one's actually a little bit damaged. That again is not on Cayer, but it is a little bit damaged, just ripped or cut open on the side here. Not a big deal for me personally, but it's a pretty decent case, and I do like that they have the handle here offset, so that way the weight distribution inside is going to sit evenly when you pick it up from that center handle. That's a nice little touch that shows that they were thinking about the actual end user. It does also have loops on either side, so I'm sure that there is a shoulder strap inside. That's going to make it a little bit easier to carry if you find this a bit too heavy to carry around by this handle. But if we open the Velcro and then get into the inside of this case, everything is currently wrapped in plastic. So let's get it out and see what it looks like. All right, so my first very quick impressions are that it's pretty decent. This definitely seems like I would be happy for the price that I paid for it. But before we get too deep into it, we're just gonna check out what else we have in the bag. There's actually a very nice handle here. It has a really nice grip on here. It's not telescoping, so you can't adjust the length to it, but it does feel nice. That's a nice comfortable grip, which is, you know, always welcome to have. It's not just a hard plastic. It actually is like a rubber material, so you get a nice solid grip on there. And you actually get two of them. So if you want to have one on either side, or if you just want to have an extra, just in case you lose one or anything happens, you got two in that case. So that's really, really nice. Again, a little bit over what I would expect for the price that's paid for this tripod. You do, of course, get that shoulder pad that I was talking about. There is also a zippered little pocket on the inside of here. Let's open that up real quick. And we have some of your instructions, some little tools, extra little rosette thingies here, which could probably go in between these arms and the actual head, just so that way if something wears down in terms of the rosette, it will be this, which is replaceable, instead of the actual little teeth on the rosette that's on the head. So I'll have to put these in there after, but for now we'll just look at it like this. And that seems to be all you got. So let's go ahead and check out the tripod itself a little bit more closely. Now, a couple things quickly to note about this. Starting from the top, of course, you do get that tripod plate in here, which just from the looks of it does look to be Manfrotto compatible. We'll check that out later, but you also do get a little screw thread on here, which is really great if you want to mount things like magic arms or something additional on here for a monitor, or I'm actually using one now on this tripod to mount my wireless receiver. But that's really cool to have that built into there. You do also have this tilt lock here, and I assume that's going to be like a one-step lock and drag adjustment there. And then on the bottom you have your lock for the pan lock, or again, I assume that's pretty much going to be how you dial in your drag. There is no additional drag setting on the pan, so these are just kind of all built into one. If you loosen it just a little bit, that could kind of function as a little bit of drag, but you don't have like a dedicated drag control. And that's going to be one of the places that you're making a sacrifice over a more expensive tripod. Another thing to note is that, again, in the back here, you do have your bubble level, like most, if not all, video tripods will, just to make sure that you can get this level, which we will talk about in just a second. But it's not illuminated, and again, that's one thing that you're going to see on kind of half of the tripods on the market. Even some of the more expensive ones don't have an illuminated bubble, and I do love having an illuminated one that lights up. But this is pretty standard for a lot of tripods at and above this price point. But just to let you know, it's not illuminated there. One other thing about this plate that they did include that I forgot to mention is that they do include both a 1/4, 20, and a 3/8 inch grid, and this does have the locating pin. So this is definitely a professional pin. So whether you have a camera that has both of these screw threads on the bottom that you can take advantage of, or just using one of them together with this pin, but this pin is also spring loaded. So if your camera does not have the spot for that locating pin, it's not going to get in the way. A really, really nice tripod plate there that is included with this. The head itself feels like there is a lot of metal in it, maybe not completely, but it does feel pretty well made, and I don't think I would worry too much about breaking this. So that's really good too to see in something at this price point. Like I said, you have that bubble level in here to get this level, because with a video tripod you have this down here which you can grab and loosen, and then you can get this whole thing level. Like I said, this is a ball type design, so you can use that to get this level so that when you lock it off, your shots are going to be level as you pan across, which is really, really great to have. But I think I did also notice if you tighten down this pan lock and then twist it, this whole head will come off of that ball base. So if you want to use this on something flat, like a slider, you do have that screw thread right on the bottom there to screw it right directly onto there without having to use anything like a hi-hat on your slider. I'm actually really pumped about that, because I've been looking, like I said, for a slightly smaller size, maybe cheaper tripod head that I could just take off of the ball base and throw it onto a slider or some other setup like that. So this, I think, is going to be a really good balance for me. It's not too large that I don't feel like it's awkward when I do that. Even if I'm using a relatively small camera, it's going to feel right at home. Just in case you would like to know, if you unscrew this little thumb screw on the side here, and then push this button, you can slide the plate out. So that does lock in as you slide it, and then you can tighten it down, just like you would on pretty much any other tripod. Taking a look at these legs here, they're a little bit thin compared to maybe some of the larger, more expensive, more robust, whatever tripods, but they are carbon fiber, so they have a nice look to them, and they feel like they're gonna be pretty rigid here. Let's go and extend them. We have locks on these three sides, and the locks actually do feel a little bit cheap. Just the material, I guess, the plastic. We'll see once we get this extended a little bit if it's going to have any issues with sliding down. So lift it up and then tighten these down one by one. There is, as you can see, a mid-level spreader, and it looks like it can be removable, but it does need some tools to remove it. So if you want to take that off, you would have to use some tools. So you can just keep it on there, and it is going to be nice to have that little bit of extra rigidity, which is always good in a video tripod. Sorry, my dog doesn't stop barking. But as you can see, it did actually extend nicely and smoothly. It didn't stick or anything like that. And now that it's extended, I feel like I can put a reasonable amount of weight on it. I don't think you should really expect to put any more than that on it, but the locks do seem to hold up quite well, so it's not that big of an issue. These do have locks both here and at the bottom, so if you wanted to extend both sections of legs to get this up as high as you could go, which we'll do in just a second, you do have to bend down and loosen and tighten each of those screws individually, which is something that I've been spoiled with my more expensive tripod we talked about before. It just has one set of locks, but this is, again, pretty standard on video tripods, so it's not like a negative on the Cayer. So now we'll just go ahead and extend this as tall as we can. We'll see if it's actually taller than me or not, and test out exactly how high it can go. So first off, let's loosen up these sections here. Pull that all the way out. Let's close this up to do this a little bit easier. Probably should have done the bottom sections first. That was... So you can see that's actually a bit taller than me. It's really quite tall. I'm about 5'7", so this is probably right around 6 feet tall, I would believe, at the top of the actual head there. The tripod, of course, is a little bit smaller, but the top of the head starts at about, I'd imagine, 6 feet tall, right as high as I can reach with my arms like that. I mean, of course, when you extend the legs all the way like this, these are a little bit thin, these leg sections, so the more you extend them, the less rigid it's going to be. It's going to have a little bit of flex and a little bit of wiggle if you want to extend it all this way, so just be ready for that. That's something that I would say is one of the biggest downsides of this tripod versus something that's maybe a little bit more expensive, is just the rigidity when you push it to the max. If you're using it as just a standard tripod, it felt plenty rigid, and while it might not be the most rigid on the market, I imagine it's going to be more than strong enough and more than steady enough for pretty much all users who are going to be looking for something this cheap. Alright, so now I have my EOS R with the Atomos Ninja 5, Ninja V, whatever you call it, on here. And it seems to be balanced, but again, like I said, there's no counterbalance or anything like that, so what you see is what you're gonna get. And there does seem to be a decent amount of, I guess you could call it friction, that's built in here just as standard. This is probably about the limit of what it could really consider to have even close to balanced in terms of the counterbalance, that one-step counterbalance. But it does seem to do decent. So on the tilt side of things, if you tighten it down, that lock just a little bit, it does give you a little bit of drag to kind of work together with that one-step counterbalance, and it seems to work decently. But on the pan axis, if you try to lock that down, like to give you just a little bit of resistance, it doesn't work at all. It's really quite terrible. So on the pan axis, that is not gonna work. You're not gonna be able to very lightly lock it to work as resistance. That really is what you see is what you get. And what you can see right now is no even stabilization or anything on my lens. I'm at 35 millimeters, but this is with the crop in 4K on the EOS R, so it's probably closer to around 50. I can't really do the math in my head. But the pan is, I think, decent enough. It's definitely going to be smooth enough for people who don't have a video tripod head yet. This is going to be a step up. I think it could be a little bit heavier, the resistance, even if it's just a one-step type thing where you can't adjust it. I would like to have just a little bit more drag, but beggars can't be choosers at this price. Ignore the noise in the background, I apologize for that. The dog's barking, music's playing because it's 5 o'clock. But now I have the lock on the tilt dialed in just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more resistance than just the standalone drag does on, the standalone counterbalance, I guess you could say, on here. And this is what you're getting here. So I'm not being super careful, but I think you get decently smooth start and stops. It's definitely going to be a big step up for people who don't have a video tripod at all. And I think for people like me who are just looking for something decent to throw onto a slider or something like that, I think this will do the job. And again, for the price, you can't really ask for more. I am satisfied with the smoothness of this tilting. Like I said, I would love to have a little bit more resistance on the pan axis, but for me, this is going to work in terms of tilt at least. Now, like I said, I guess this doesn't have, like, I guess you could say, true counterbalance. There's nothing you can adjust on here, so I'm just going to show you, again, with it dialed in just slightly. I didn't do this super carefully or anything. I have the lock tightened just a little bit, and I'm going to just tilt this forward and leave it there without touching it. I'm not locking it down any further, and you can see that it stays in place. And I'll tilt it back, and I apologize if it kind of loses focus or something. Oh, there we go, you got some tree branches. And as I leave it, my balance might be slightly off because it is falling back a little bit. But this is definitely, again, going to be a big difference for people who are using ball heads or anything like that. Doesn't have any kind of resistance, doesn't have any kind of counterbalance system built in. And the lock feels like it locks in place really securely. So I'm very satisfied with this for what it is. One last quick thing to mention here that I forgot to say is that you do get, of course, removable feet on here that are exactly the same as pretty much all other video tripods, but you don't get a floor level spreader in here, so there's really not much of a reason to remove them unless you want to use those spikes when you're on sand or dirt or grass or something like that, where you really want to get a nice solid contact with the ground. But you do have spikes under those removable rubber feet. Being completely honest with you, for this price, I would be pretty happy with even just the head. Now, like I said, I've been looking for a head to use on sliders and other things like that have a flat base, that use Manfrotto plates, that are video style heads, and I've bought a few from Manfrotto. I've gone through, a bunch of different tripod heads, and I've been slightly disappointed with all of them. To be completely honest, quite disappointed with Manfrotto options. But this is something that I think for the amount of money that I paid for this entire tripod, including the carry case and everything, I would have been happy if I got just the head at this quality. So yes, I do think that this is a fantastic value for the money. This tripod has impressed me, and I love little touches like the fact that it uses a Manfrotto style tripod plate, which just works really well with a ton of other products that already do that as well. It has really nice little touches like this little screw thread on the side, which is very, very useful. It has a really nice look to it, and I mean, it works smooth and everything. I love that you can remove the head to get a flat base video style head. It comes with 2 arms and a pretty standard but nice carrying case. Now, I've done a lot of research, like I said, specifically on heads, but of course the tripod as well, and I don't think that you're really gonna find anything better than this on the market for this price. So if you are looking for something simple, but something that will get the job done, I do think that I would highly recommend this, and I hope that you can check it out and enjoy it yourself just as much as I'm going to from now on. But I will have a link in the video description, so if you do wanna check it out, see how it's priced, maybe what the availability is like where you are located, do check that link out and head over onto their website as well. I'll have a link to that down there too. If you have any other questions or comments or anything like that, be sure to leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back to you. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more in the future, and as always, thank you for watching.